Good morning. My comments were off, so Chloe couldn't join me, so it was my fault, but she will be joining me any moment. I'm very excited to have her on. Good morning, Alex. Hi, Chloe. Here she is. Hi, Tanya. Nice to see you.
Hello, good morning. Hi, how are you doing?
Lovely to have you on.
That was painful for me to watch. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't get on. I can see that you're waiting for me, but it just didn't have the little button there. But we're on now, so good.
Oh, I'm very, very happy that you've joined. So I'll just tell, well, why don't you tell my community a bit more about you? Because, yeah, you're the best at doing that.
Yeah, sure. So I am a hypnotherapist and coach, and I specialize in helping people with anxiety and self-esteem and confidence issues. I've written 2 books. One's called The Anxiety Solution, and my latest book is called Brave New Girl. And yeah, I help people with anxiety in different ways with a podcast, with one-on-one sessions, lots of workshops and online courses and that sort of thing.
Fabulous, that's great. So before we get into the current situation of what's going on in the world, which I know you've got lots of great ideas and tips for, can we go back to how you got into this? And maybe you could tell my community a bit about your own struggles with anxiety. And I've heard a really good story about your panic attack. And if you could just tell them a bit more about that, that would be lovely.
Yeah, so I think like lots of people that go into professions where you're helping people with something, it's because I had my own issues with anxiety in the past, really quite bad anxiety starting as a teenager. I think it's a common thing I hear about panic attacks, that you think you're dying and you end up in A&E thinking you're having a heart attack, and that's what happened to me when I was 15. I thought I was dying, and you know, never heard of panic attacks before, didn't really know what anxiety was. People weren't talking about mental health at that point really at all. And I think after that, I just had a lot of fear around losing control, fear about being myself, fear about being in social situations, talking to people. I would worry about almost everything, and it held me back in a lot of ways and ruined relationships and held me back at work and all sorts of things. And it was only about 10 years after that first panic attack when I was 25 that I actually got some help, and that's because I was basically sabotaging my relationship so much because I had such low self-esteem that I had to get some help. So finally I had some therapy. I went on basically a mission to try and become a calmer person, and gradually did start to be able to deal with things better and become a calmer person. And then these days I get to help other people who have gone through the same things as me.
I think that's so true what you say about having had your own issues, you then want to help other people. Once you've found the answer for yourself, it's almost like an inner calling to just provide that service to people around the world. So thank you for that. So when I was in India, I was given mantras and I was doing meditations and kind of going on this very spiritual journey. And we were given mantras to kind of quieten the mind. And I feel that now in the West, we're welcoming that a bit more into our lives, but in the way of affirmations. And I know you work a lot with affirmations. So can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, well, I think in some ways affirmations have got a bit of a funny reputation, but actually when we think about it, we're actually telling ourselves negative affirmations all day, every day for some of us, because we have this internal dialogue that is always putting us down or pointing out our flaws or thinking the worst. And actually, lots of people find that they feel better when they think of some empowering statements, some positive statements, positive affirmations to say to themselves, and just start saying that to yourself and creating a new habit of what to think and what to say to yourself. Because, you know, for many of us, the old way of beating ourselves up and thinking very negatively about things isn't working. It's creating loads of anxiety and not making us feel good. So can we actually start to change that and think about things more positively? And yeah, I love affirmations. I have several that I like. One that I'm saying to myself at the moment is, "This too shall pass. This too shall pass." That's one of my favourites. I think it's very relevant for right now.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I think there's a lot of anxiety going on in the world anyway, and having those little moments where you can just self-soothe and talk to yourself and be kind to yourself is such a nice tool to have. How are you coping just in general? Because I feel like being on the other end, being like a wellness kind of person and giving other people advice. I work with clients and you work with clients, and often people will look to us for advice and to lean on. But how are you? How are you coping with all of this going on?
Yeah, a few people have asked me this. I'm actually fine. I'm actually really quite good. I'm very lucky in that my job is pretty stable. I've got a nice relationship, those sorts of things. And not everyone is so lucky in that way. So I'm just, I think, trying to, as much as possible, be there for other people, I guess, at this time. That's not to say that I'm always calm, because there are definitely things that will make me feel anxious. Like in the summer, I was anxious about the fires in the Amazon, for example. But for some reason, I feel pretty calm about the situation right now. And I don't know, I'm really hopeful that this is going to change things for the better, because so much of the old way of working, for people, for example, and the old systems were not really working for a lot of people. And I hope this can give us the shake up that is going to actually mean that people in need are going to somehow benefit. I don't know how it's going to happen. I know it's a big struggle right now, but I'm seeing it as a bigger picture for hopefully things getting better.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I think even with smaller issues going on in our own lives, we can be so focused in on it that we can't see the bigger picture, and just taking a step back and seeing it as a whole, it kind of relieves this need to try and control and see the outcome. I actually heard you say this at one time, just because it's uncertain, it doesn't mean you're unsafe. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing that is getting to us most at the moment with this crisis, the uncertainty, the not knowing what's going to happen, how long it's going to go on for. And that's our biggest fear in some ways. Uncertainty is our biggest fear. Even, it comes to a fear of death. That's actually just a fear of uncertainty, really, because we don't know what's going to happen when we die. And so how can we learn to become more comfortable with that uncertainty? And I think that has to do with trusting ourselves, trusting that we have a lot of resources within ourselves to be able to adapt and change. And if we look at humanity and what we've coped with as a species, we've coped with a lot, we've adapted, we've changed, and all of that is within us all of that evolution is in our DNA. And I think we need to remember that we are capable of overcoming challenges, and we can adapt and we can change. And I think as well, part of it is learning to surrender, learning just to say, look, I'm not in control here. And often we don't like that when we're anxious. We don't want to be out of control, but actually realizing we're not in control now, and actually that's okay. Can we kind of turn it over to God or the universe or life and just say, right, I'm handing this over to you because I'm not in control here. That's what I do. I think when I'm feeling out of control, I just surrender it to a higher power as much as possible.
I absolutely love that. And I find for myself, it's in those moments of just saying, I really have no control. I don't even have control over what thought is going to pop into my head next. I don't have control over, a cough or a reaction to something. How do we have control over life in general? And it's that kind of understanding everything is out of control. It's just this ease of just, well, we've got to just let it all be there. We've just got to relax into it.
Yeah.
But so can you tell me a bit more about your first book and how you got into that, and what was your inspiration to start writing it?
Yeah, so I was seeing a lot of clients one-on-one for anxiety, and I was just noticing that almost every person that I was working with had the same sorts of issues, and they were the same sorts of issues that I'd had. So a lot of things around low self-esteem and comparison and not feeling good enough, and social anxieties and worrying about the future. And I actually got approached by someone to write the book, which was just very lucky and very happy thing to happen and surprising for me. And yeah, the book is just about all the things that I see most commonly, both in myself and in my clients. And it's a toolkit, essentially. It's called the Anxiety Solution, a toolkit for helping you to find your own solution to your anxiety based on getting to the roots of where that anxiety comes from, and then using different tools to try to help yourself. But it isn't like there's one solution. I don't think it is different for everyone. And so quite often I found it's doing a few little things for yourself, trying different types of therapy, trying different meditations, or yeah, self-care and that sort of thing. And we can find our own solution through trying different things.
Yeah, I so agree. And I think the way in which we both work is we want to get to the root cause of why someone is having like an anxiety attack, or for me, why someone is having issues with their gut. For me, it's not enough to just say, well, take this pill, take this supplement, because there's so much more going on underneath the surface. And I know it's different for everyone, but have you found a sort of root cause of where anxiety arises from?
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, so it's different for everyone, but quite often, well, nearly always, there's something in our childhoods that is the root of it. There is a genetic aspect. However, there's the saying that genes load the gun and your childhood pulls the trigger, or your lifestyle pulls the trigger. So it has a lot to do with the way that our parents are with us, the environment that we grow up in, what happens at school. So if you have an anxious parent, for example, you know, as children, we observe that, we copy our parents. Or if you go through a lot of uncertainty as a child, you know, you take on board this sense that life is uncertain, and that can cause us to be on high alert. I get a lot of clients talk to me about things around having critical parents, and this sense that, you know, even if they're getting all A's, their parents are wondering why they're not A stars. And having that criticism from an early age can instill us with a lot of criticism for ourselves, and maybe cause us to be perfectionists, for example. So I think I don't want to blame parents. It's not about blaming, but it is about, where does that come from? And all parents are doing their best, you know, with what they have and what they know. And yeah, it's certainly not about blame, but we can often find, you know, in therapy, it becomes very clear where those anxious patterns and ways of being have come from.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've done a lot of kind of introspection on, you know, why I behave the way I behave, and looking at where it's come from, and especially now, because I'm isolating with my mum, I'm starting to see, oh, maybe that's why I did that, or oh, I picked up that behaviour from you. And it's really insightful, and then you can kind of go and work at it and kind of massage it out of the system, as it were.
Yeah, wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, what an opportunity for you to sort of heal some of that stuff maybe in this time.
Definitely. I've kind of come to this thing that now it's okay to not be okay. You know, like, it's okay to, last week I had a real down day, and I also had a really, really good day. But now I've kind of come to this conclusion over my journey with mental health, because I suffered from anxiety and depression for a lot of my life, and through healing my gut and through having hypnotherapy, it's the two combined that really made all the difference to me. And I don't suffer from depression anymore, but when I did, it was so horrendous. But now in my down moments, I can really be okay with that, and not try and strive for this, trying to be happy all the time. Do you get people who are perfectionists in nature, that feel that they have to strive to be happy and be in a state of bliss the whole time?
Yeah, you know what, I've been hearing a lot during this crisis from people beating themselves up about how they're feeling, and saying to themselves, you know, I'm so lucky in lots of ways. Why am I feeling so anxious? I shouldn't be feeling like this. You know, I'm pathetic. This, that, and the other. And I think there is something really to be said for just accepting how we feel in the moment, because we can make any feeling 10 times worse by making ourselves wrong for feeling that way. And I think that the thing is that when we allow ourselves to fully feel things, we can process them. When we just shove things down and put on a smiley face even though we're feeling rubbish, or try to act like everything's fine. We don't really give ourselves the space to process things and to feel our feelings and to allow them to be, you know, processed out, basically. So we've got to feel our feelings in order to, what's the saying? You've got to feel it to heal it. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I you know, as soon as an uncomfortable emotion arises, the first thing we want to do is run away, and it's a natural feeling. But what's a good way in which we can start to really feel those feelings and accept them and let them kind of heal, as you say?
Yeah, so I think the first step would be to just to name whatever it is that you're feeling. So give it a name. So very often we kind of generalize our feelings and we don't accurately label them and name them. So if you are feeling, I don't know, often we say, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling anxious, but can we actually drill down to what we're feeling? Are we feeling disappointed? Are we feeling lonely? What is the feeling that we're really experiencing, and naming it? And I think as well, we kind of need a bit of space to be able to feel that. So being away from our phones, being away from watching Netflix, those things that often distract us, and just allowing ourselves to focus on the feeling. Notice where you feel it in your body, notice the quality of the feeling, give yourself a bit of time to completely focus on it and allow whatever feelings to come up. So if you feel angry, then can you express that anger somehow? You know, screaming into a pillow, or I like to pound on the sofa when I'm feeling really angry, just let it all out, or cry, or feel whatever it is, express that. Or maybe it's about writing about what you're feeling, you know, journaling, just a stream of consciousness, and writing about that. Or it might be that you talk to someone and tell someone about how you're feeling. But you know, it's not always the easiest thing, because we want to distract, and we want to, I'm known to just pick up my phone absent-mindedly if I'm feeling something that I don't want to be feeling. I'll just pick up my phone and go on Instagram. But actually, can we create that space and just give ourselves that time to process?
Yeah, I love that. That was really beautiful, and I hope that everyone watching will be able to use that and start to implement it and start to feel those feelings, because they are uncomfortable and it's just natural to want to run away. But once we just start to accept them, and just say it's just part of life. Life is a flow of pleasure and pain, and it will change from one thing to the next constantly. So no, I love that. That's a really good tip. Thanks, Chloe. I've got a question from someone. Can I read it to you?
Yeah.
Okay. It's to do with the current health crisis going on, and she suffers from, she wants to remain anonymous, but she suffers from a health anxiety anyway. So this is obviously brought up a lot for her. I panic and worry that either I or someone I know will get unwell, and that I could have taken steps to prevent it. I fixate on thoughts such as a mole might turn into cancer and I'm going to die. It's exhausting and consuming. How can I stop these thoughts or not indulge in them?
Yeah, it's something I hear a lot, health anxiety, and my heart massively goes out to anyone who has health anxiety right now, or something like OCD. I think it's so tough right now. It just adds to what you're feeling, and I think it is quite normal as well for any type of anxiety, with all the stuff that's going on, for that to be heightened. So I hope that person can be kind to themselves about how they're feeling. With health anxiety, Google is not your friend. I am always saying to my clients, please do not Google your symptoms, because it's never going to be good. You know, all roads on Google lead to some terrible disease if you kind of dig for long enough. So I think the first step is really trying to avoid, you know, Googling or researching symptoms. I suppose another thing with health anxiety is that we are constantly, and I've experienced a bit of health anxiety myself, so I somewhat relate. We're constantly looking for reassurance for other people, whether that's going to the doctor or asking someone else for their opinion, or Googling. But actually, the more we are seeking that reassurance, the less we are able just to, it's almost like we're feeding the fears in a way, because we're constantly looking outside of ourselves for reassurance and validation. And instead, trying to be okay with the uncomfortable feeling of worrying about something, or the uncomfortable feeling of feeling anxious. Because if we can just be comfortable with being uncomfortable, being you know, allowing yourself to be in that uncomfortable space of wanting to Google about it, but actually not taking that action. We learn that we can survive without having to seek reassurance and without having to, you know, research. And actually, I think that's a part of it, learning just to be kind of be okay with being uncomfortable. And as well, as much as possible, trying to distract yourself, because the more we focus on a symptom, it's like, I don't know, say you've got like a tingle in your arm or something. The more you focus on your arm, the more tingly it gets. That's just what the brain does. Or if you focus on, I don't know, whatever feeling or sensation you're worried about, the more intense it gets. So can you distract yourself away from it? Really try to absorb yourself in some other activity or task or conversation, or, you know, dance around the living room or watch TV or go for a walk. Anything just to distract you, I think is really important as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I always thought distraction was a bad thing, but it's such an important tool to have as well, just to take your mind off of what's going on. It's really important to do that. Another question's come in about anxiety medication. Could you quickly touch on that, and what your opinion is and what your thoughts are around that?
Yeah, so because I'm not a doctor, I generally don't comment on this too much. And I would really suggest that people follow their GP's advice about that. Yeah. I think there is a lot of stigma about anxiety medications, and I would say that actually sometimes we might not have a choice about what options are available to us. Not everyone can pay for private therapy. Yeah. For example, the only option for treatment might be the medication. And so, you know, to say, oh, you know, don't have that, isn't very fair to people when there isn't really anything else. So I think follow your doctor's advice. If it is available to you to have therapy as well, that's, you know, always going to be a good idea. If you can be looking after your diet and trying other things as well. But I think the medication is a tool. You know, that's what GPs have said to me, and I tend to agree. But yeah, please follow their advice, and don't beat yourself up if you do choose to go down that route. It doesn't have to be forever. And, you know, sometimes, you know, there might not be other options for you. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think everything has its time and place, doesn't it? And some people might need that until they can get to a place where, you know, they can afford therapy. And so everything's welcome at the end of the day. And like you say, we're both not doctors, but we're definitely trying to do our bit and help people. So that's nice. So from medication to meditation, what do you do? Do you have a meditation practice?
Yes. So I do transcendental meditation. So like you were mentioning earlier with the mantras, you have a mantra, which is a sound. It's a Sanskrit sound. And you say it to yourself in your head over and over very gently. And it takes you into this very deep, quiet place inside yourself where you can start to feel very good and calm. But it's not always like that. I definitely have days where I'm thinking tons and distracted or bored or frustrated. And that for me is just the course of meditation. And I try not to let it bother me too much, and just keep it as a regular routine. For me, I think I would say meditation has been one of the most powerful things that I've ever done. But it is really about the consistency of it. So you don't meditate once and suddenly you're kind of completely zen. It's something that you do 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes. I do 20 minutes twice a day, and it has made a massive difference to me. So yeah, I recommend meditation to everyone.
Lovely, thank you. So you have a Facebook group, don't you?
Yes, so I've got 2 Facebook groups. One's called Calmer You Community, and one's called the Brave New You Confidence Challenge, which is about confidence, and Calmer You Community is more about anxiety.
Yeah. So when people work with you one-on-one, what's the process? So say someone's coming to see you about health anxiety, what would be the process that you go through with them to get them from a place of pain and discomfort to a place where they're feeling more at ease with themselves?
Yeah, so I do a combination of hypnotherapy and coaching and NLP. And the first session is 2 hours, and we spend the first part of the session talking, and I find out about my client and their history and how they want things to be. And we might look at action that they can take themselves, things that they can do in between the sessions to help themselves. And then we go ahead with the actual hypnotherapy part of it, where everything takes place on Zoom, so it's all done remotely, which is quite good for now, obviously. And you know, when you're being hypnotized, you have your eyes closed, you're usually lying down, and you just start to find yourself getting into this deeper state of mind where we become more receptive to being able to take on board positive suggestions and letting go of things from the past, letting go of old programming. So it's incredibly relaxing and you feel really good afterwards, but it also makes this permanent change to the way that you think and feel about things. So yeah, it's interesting. You often hear from clients, they get to a few days later and just start to notice, oh, you know, I just wasn't worrying about that thing so much, or I felt a lot more positive or more confident. So yeah. Yes, and usually I see people for about 6 sessions or so. So it's not, it doesn't go on for months and years. It's quite quick.
I have so much respect and love for hypnotherapy. I think it's absolutely fantastic because I had a variety of different psychologists and therapists, and I saw everyone when I was growing up because I just couldn't shake this this anxiety and depression that I was dealing with. And I found hypnotherapy, and for some reason it just clicked, and it was like, wow, all of that hard work that I was going through, looking at all of these, you know, hard times and talking about it endlessly and getting nowhere, and then within a few hypnotherapy sessions I was just like, oh, well, I feel great.
That's amazing.
So powerful just to get to the root and like change your thought patterns and change your emotions, and it's such a gift, and I would actually love to learn to do it myself and incorporate it into my into the way I work with clients too. So it's great to hear the way you work.
Yeah, amazing.
Good. So tell people where they can find you, tell people what you're up to. I know you've got a brilliant podcast where you also interview some really interesting people. So yeah, let people know where to find you.
Yeah, so my podcast is called the Calmer You podcast, and it's on the iTunes app, the podcast app, and Spotify, and it's on my website, calmeryou.com. I've got some free resources on my website if anyone wants to visit calmeryou.com/free, and that link's in my bio if anyone wants to find me afterwards. I send you a hypnotherapy recording and some affirmations, and affirmations MP3 and different worksheets, so people can head there to get some free resources to get themselves hopefully into a calmer state. And yeah, my book's called The Anxiety Solution.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Chloe. It's been such a pleasure having you on here.
Thank you. So nice to chat to you. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Have a lovely day.
You too. Thanks. Bye.